Future Fighters. We had an absolute blast with this the last time we did it, and I can't remember when that was, so let's do it again. The patrons voted. This is the #1 video they wanted to see. World Boss Legends and GBRs to be added to Marvel Future Fight. Now, obviously this is a contentious one. I couldn't add every single character under the moon, so I went with just 15 characters. I try not to repeat too many characters from other lists, so you will see a bunch of new faces here, but essentially I'll go through and explain a little bit about each character and then give you my picks for whether I would prefer to see them as a World Boss Legend added into the game or as a GBR added into the game. And there's different reasons to want each one. Obviously we want other things like, you know, more rewards and better updates and more game modes, but for the time being we can you know, fantasize about what if, because we do know there's at least one new World Boss Legend coming this year, so it's not pure fantasy. And they did say that this new World Boss Legend will have different mechanics than the other World Boss Legends, so let's sort of get into that. The first one we got here, just to give you guys a little sneak peek, these are the 15 I chose. And we're going to start off with Trax here. So Trax is already in Contest of Champions. For those of you that are very familiar with Galactus, Trax is one of his heralds. So he's a very powerful being. No, not quite as powerful as Silver Surfer, but almost, right? On par with something like Silver Surfer. I think he would be a really cool World Boss Legend. He would be a villain. He'd be a universal type. Just very classic, very like Thanos-esque in that sense. He has that big weapon that he wields. And what's cool is you could have Galactus interfere. So, you know, every time you get his, let's say he starts with 100 HP bars. And obviously it would have to be tweaked so that it's 100 HP bars, but it's not actually like, you know, crazy amounts of HP. And then every time you reduce his HP by, let's say, 20%, so 20 bars goes down to 80, Galactus comes in and does like a big attack that can one-shot you unless you dodge it successfully. And then the fight continues with Trax. And then, you know, of course, Galactus comes in and does his little thing. So I've sort of given it away already because I explained that I would prefer him as a world boss. I'll vote him as world boss, but hey, remember, this is a community vote, so you get to have a say, and everyone's votes get tabulated up at the end to see whether they'd want these things as World Boss Legends or as GBRs. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here so you guys can see a little bit better what's going on. All right, next up, I think this is a huge crowd favorite. If you ever played Marvel vs. Capcom, I'm going to take you for a ride. You know exactly who Blackheart is. Very cool villain, not arch nemesis, but recurring villain for Ghost Rider. Way too powerful, in my opinion, to be in Marvel Future Fight, but hey, whatever. We're eventually going to get into even more powerful beings than Blackheart. Although Blackheart can, from what I understand, he can do some shape changing and like metamorphosis. I don't know if that's the word. I still think he's better off as a World Boss Legend than as a GBR, just because I'm more used to fighting him the way you fight him on an arcade. So I want to see him sort of on the level. I don't want to see this like gigantic Blackheart. I mean, you could do that, but I would vote for him instead as a World Boss Legend. I think you get some better animation, some juicier stuff. Here, this one's pretty obvious. I think I actually kind of... Galactus is the only one that's already in the game, okay? I sort of regret putting him on this list, but hey, whatever. You can roast me in the comments if you want. I want to see Galactus as a World Boss Legend. I know he's already a GBR, so you can't vote for him. I mean, well, you could vote for him to be a GBR. You could vote for him to be a GBR. I could change my mind, but no. Yeah. What did I do? Okay, let's go back now. Yeah. Here's the thing. I think they should add Galactus to the game, and I think he should be a World Boss Legend. That's all. That's all I'm saying. Or they should just revamp. Or you can look at it this way. They can just revamp his. They can revamp his stage, his GBR stage, so that he is much more difficult and sort of on par with Dormammu, or maybe a little bit harder, you know, maybe a little bit harder. So yeah, you could vote for him for GBR. That just means you want his GBR stage to get reworked and get the rewards updated and the difficulty updated. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Annihilus here, I think he'd be a really cool World Boss Legend, but I think he'd be a much cooler GBR because you can utilize all of the bugs and you can just have this really grandiose stage in space where he's sort of like swarming you with armies of bugs and shit like that. I think that's just really cool, and I don't think World Boss Legend would really achieve the scale of his armies the way that GBR would. So I'm more about like the scale of things and it's sort of feeling proportional. But yeah, I'd put him in as GBR. This one, a lot of people who are not Marvel Snap fans are not going to recognize her, but this is Black Swan. Now, we thought years ago that Black Swan was going to be added to Marvel Future Fight because of I believe it was some sneak peeks and some teasers. I think it ended up being a Black Order update in 2021 after Mephisto was added as a World Boss Legend, but it didn't end up including Black Swan at the time. The reason why I'm including Black Swan now is because the Black Order and Thanos, right? They're related to Black Swan because she's part of the Black Order now, right? So in the comics. So my idea here, at least for me, and you can obviously have your own opinions, of course. My idea is they introduce Black Swan as a new World Boss Legend. Okay, follow me here. And then they rework all of the other Black Order world bosses in order to be legends as well. So it's like a Black Order Thanos kind of world boss update, and then the new one, the new cat on the scene, the new, you know, member of the gang, so to speak, is Black Swan. So yeah, that's my idea, that's my vote, and yeah, I just think it's a pretty good idea. Here we have a generic photo of the Celestials. So for those of you that don't know, the CTPs in the game come from Celestials. So that's Arishem, who looks like the CTP. Well, the CTP of Energy is Arisham's head. You have somebody else there who looks like the CTP of Authority. I think that's the CTP of Rage or something else. There's the Refinement back there. All the CTPs come from Celestials. So what better thing to do than to add the Celestials into the game as non-playable characters, aka GBR. So hear me out. They add Celestials in as a GBR, and that special GBR, you can only play it once a week, okay? And then after you beat it, you have to beat it solo. Maybe you can't be with a team. I don't know, whatever. They can put some kind of restriction on it. Doesn't matter. But after you beat it like 10 or 20 times, you get a CTP, just guaranteed. Boom. So they can restrict it, right? If you can only do the fight once a week, and you have to do it 10 times, then it takes 10 weeks, which is like 2.5 months. So it's like a long time. So it's not like you're going to be getting a CTP every single day. But I think that would still be really, really cool. And it would be a really nice long-term goal for new players to build up to. Like, hey, you know, start building up your teams for World Boss Legend. Start building up your teams for PvP and GBR and stuff like that. But start thinking about what team you're going to put together for the Celestial. Because you're going to want to be able to start farming that as soon as possible to get those wins up. So that once you hit 10, boom, you get that CTP, right? I think that would be sick, personally. Personally, I think that would be dope. Next idea I had here is Maestro. Now, this one's a bit wacky. I know Maestro's already in the game because he's a version of Hulk and he has a uniform. However, couple things here. Maestro in the comics is way stronger. Maestro in the comics and in other games like Contest of Champions, as you can see here, uses weapons that he's collected from killing other, you know, heroes and Avengers. Like he's got Thor's, well, that's Ronan. It looks like Ronan's hammer, but he's got Thor's Mjolnir. He's got Captain America's shield. He's got Hawkeye's bow and arrows. He's got like all, you know, Thanos' gauntlet. Like he's achieved all of these prizes by just going across, you know, his universe and sort of murdering everybody. So it'd be really cool to have him as a world boss. They could rework or release like a new like Ultra Maestro uniform for Hulk, or they could introduce him as a new character, either one. And they could make him like, you know, his first skill, he uses Captain America's shield. His second skill, he uses Thor's hammer. Like, he has 5 completely different skills because he's using different weapons with each one. I think that would be sick. I think that would be just so sick, and that would be well worth a new World Boss Legend. Yes. Now, coming over to Death, involved with Thanos, involved with Deadpool. Obviously, a very ominous figure with a pretty straightforward name. I don't have a lot to say about Death. She's just sort of like mommy, goth mommy material. I think she would make a really cool GBR. She could obviously get bigger and smaller, and you know how people feel about that. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about that one. Beyonder, Secret Wars. We know that Marvel is leading to Secret Wars in one way or another. They're probably going to touch on the Beyonder, so I think it would be an amazing time to add him into the game whenever they do that. Beyonder has obviously an insane skill set, so adding him as a character wouldn't really make sense. He would you know, break the game. So I think adding him as a GBR, allowing him to sort of manipulate reality and do all this crazy stuff, allows the GBR fight to be very interesting and entertaining and refreshing. You know, they could make a Beyonder that does, you know, 6 different moves, but he only does one move. Not one move, but like he does 6 different sort of reality bending attacks, sort of like the Kang World Boss Legend stage, where it's one of 3 places that he takes you to. So they could do the same thing, but they could do 6 transformations for Beyonder. And then depending on the day or just randomly, right, each day he's doing a different one, or maybe each fight. So you're like, oh man, I just played Beyonder and he did 2 out of 6 and that was crazy. He sent us over to like, you know, Battle World. And then the other one's like, oh shit, like my Beyonder transformed into like Galactus. And then it was a Galactus and Beyonder like wailing on me, whatever. I don't know, man. Some of this shit's a little bit too out there. You know what I mean? But I still think it'd be cool as a GBR. Gravitron, or Gravitron? Gravitron. It sounds so wrong when I say it. He controls gravity. He's in Marvel Strike Force. I've been begging for this dude for years. He's so cool. He's such a cool sort of like classic villain. You know, he's got the cape. He's got the long hair. He's got the sort of bullshit smile. I really like Gravitron. I think he's really dope. He's really strong. I think gravity is a really cool concept, like Magneto, like magnetism. I would love him as like a native tier 3 World Boss Legend. Man, that shit would be dope. And you know what they could do for Gravitron? They could do like heavier characters take more damage than lighter characters. Because you know how when you go into the Marvel Universe tab, it tells you like the height and the weight of the characters? How crazy would that be if you have to use like Wasp and like these light ass characters? That would be so funny to me. Be like, oh shit, I got a tier 4 Storm because she's the lightest of all the tier 4s. Or like, oh shit, I just tier 4'd Hulk. He's useless for this fight because he's heavy as hell. I think that'd be really, really funny. So yeah. Okay, moving on to the next one here. We have Grandmaster. Okay, so I put in the Grandmaster and I also put in the Collector. They're brothers. I think they're both really cool. We've seen them both in the MCU already, so they have precedence. They have cool power sets. They're just interesting characters. I think the stages that they fight on as well would be really interesting. So I would just love to see them added to the game. I think it would be dope. It really could go either way. I think this one honestly is a coin flip. I think for the Grandmaster, because it's like an arena type thing. I think for the Grandmaster, I'll go World Boss Legend. And then for the Collector, I'll go GBR. Because I'm just trying to think, one of them, you're going to want them to like flood the arena, which would be like the GBR stage, right? You want them to like flood the arena. So the Collector, having collected all these things, could you like open up his capsules or whatever, the things that he keeps things in, and like release a bunch of exotic animals or whatever, like captured, you know, people, heroes, villains, whatever, into the fight. So I think the Collector would be maybe a tad more interesting in a GBR situation. High Evolutionary. This one I add to almost all of my videos and sort of votes that we can do because I think he's a really cool character, really well played in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I would prefer him as a world boss because I'd like to unlock him as a playable character. And despite having a nice power set, he is like human sized, so that's perfect. And then we have, so we got, this is Typhoid Mary. This one's kind of out of left field here. Typhoid Mary is not a very well-known villain. You probably know her from Marvel Snap. She has a poison. She basically like poisons people that she touches or gets near. I think they could just do some interesting or annoying things with her, but I can see how much the devs are loving the like booba mommy thing lately. So I could definitely see her being added. Not definitely. I could see them doing something sort of quirky and out of the box with her and World Boss Legend, and having some sort of, some sort of weird fight where you're constantly taking damage, which means you either have to bring in healers or you have to, find a way to offset the damage that you're taking while simultaneously doing damage, right? Because she sort of poisons things that she's near. And then last but not least, we have Mojo in Mojo World. Despite being a lesser villain, not on the level of characters like Dormammu and Galactus, I do think he would be a really cool GBR because he would transport you to Mojo World. And for those of you that know Mojo World, it's really cool. And they could have an unlocking event like they had for Silver Surfer with Galactus. They could do Mojo in Mojo World, and they could have an unlocking event for like Shatterstar or Longshot or one of the other characters that's associated with Mojo World. I think it would be awesome, and I think it would bring a lot of people back to the game. So yeah, that's my list. Hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what your list looks like. Screenshot it. Send it to me as a DM on Discord, Twitter, whatever you want to do. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for the patrons for voting. Smash the like button, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.